Hello everyone, this is Roshan, CEO and co-founder of Insurtech, and today I'm excited to have with me Manish, President of Affinity Business of Alliance Insurance Brokers, and today we are at the India Insurtech second edition, and we are excited to have them sponsor this podcast as well. So thank you. Thanks, Manish.
Our pleasure.
Thanks. Why don't we start by a quick introduction? Give me a quick background about you, about Affinity Business, as well as the Alliance Brokers.
So let me start with the company first. I think Alliance Insurance Brokers has been in existence for over 20 plus years now. And I think when we set out on this path of insurance broking journey, I think the promoters were very clear that we don't want to be a Me Too broker. So I think day one, the focus was very clear. There was a lot of focus on specialty lines of business. So, we sports and media entertainment is one of our, very, very strong business verticals. All the IPL matches that you see, we have been insuring it for the last 10, 11 years. Most of these movies, that are produced by big media houses has been insured by us. We are also very large in the gems and jewelry space, and we insure a lot of big clients. Their shops, their whole journey. We are cash in transit business. So there are some specialty lines that we focus on, and that's been our core strength. And I, of course, lead the affinity piece. I think in our Insurtech Summit, we have been hearing a lot of speakers talking about the complexities of insurance. So I think we are trying to solve that problem, to make it more simpler, to make it more tech-enabled, to reach out to the last mile. That's our problem that I feel that we are trying to solve. About me, so I've been there in the insurance industry for about 2 decades now, working with some of the multinational insurance companies, and now for a year I've been associated with the Alliance.
Fantastic. Thanks, and thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for joining me here. So talk to me a little bit about what you have seen in the recent past, some of the successes in this, because as you said, this is complex. It has its own challenges, especially in the Indian ecosystem. So what are some of the successes that you guys have seen, and what you are optimistic about from those successes?
So we largely distribute the general insurance products. So I think the complexity begins with the first step is the underwriting part. To most of the people or the customer would not understand the complex proposal forms of the insurance companies, the complex questions that an underwriter might ask about their business.
So you're dumbing it down?
Yeah, so we are trying to make it very, very simple. So we are trying to answer all the queries of this, a person who's just wanting an insurance, right?
Absolutely.
His core business is not insurance. So we are making life simple. So, we are trying to resolve that in terms of, being a mediator between this client and, let's say, an insurance company. When we say, hey, this is what, this is the kind of, we are trying to build a platform wherein we bring these kind of segment of clients on board, and try to give them a value proposition in terms of, because the risks are similar. What would only differ is the kind of sum insureds. So there is a scope of making things simpler. So that is one of the problem that we are solving. The other is in terms of pricing. Can we look at a standardization in terms of pricing rather than having it this customer is big, so he gets this price. This customer is small.
But I would assume, sorry for interrupting, but I would assume that pricing is coming from the underwriting.
Yes.
And they are doing it based on the risk assessment rather than any wild swing.
Yeah. So you're bang on. I think, but as I said, we try to identify risks which are similar, bring them on one platform.
Correct.
And then talk to the underwriter and the insurer. Hey, these are the these 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh customers that I have. Just to give you an example, let's take an example of a cab aggregator. Their target audience are
Absolutely.
same, and I'm sure the users, every day probably would be more than 5 lakh, 10 lakh, across India. I'm talking about. So this is the scenario wherein the
you
customer
mean that
risk
Snap is not very different
Yeah.
from Ola, so they should be priced similarly.
similarly,
Yeah.
and so that is what we try to do. And of course, in terms of claims, we have certain predefined. We try to predefine the claim terms and conditions with the insurer and the underwriter, so that again claims don't look like a maze. It doesn't look very complex. So we are trying to make things simpler,
Absolutely.
and that's what that is what we have set out to do.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because the most complex thing is to make things simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And life is simple. I think people make it complex. So we are trying to
Absolutely. No,
that
that's
element,
fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about the company's journey and where you guys are heading. And how do you see technology playing a role in that?
Yeah. So I think on the company perspective, I think we have been growing at almost at about 30% CAGR.
Nice.
We are having almost 98% penetration. That means once the customer gets associated with us, they
So your closing ratio is pretty high.
closing ratio and the persistency ratio, they try and be with us with the kind of value add that they
Retentions.
see. And and the affinity business is such, once you have given a solution to a client, you've given them a platform, then actually you are actually becoming his partner in his business.
Yep.
We are just
Because you understand that better
Yeah.
than anybody else.
yeah, so we partner with their business. Just to give you the same example, let's say for example of a cab aggregator, they are in that business. We are just partnering. We are just trying to solve one of their issues by giving a tech solution or a claim solution or that, and that is what our main objective is of the organization.
Let's double click on the second part of the question, which was how are you enabling that with tech? Being an Insurtech, hey, we are not only looking at the insurance, we are looking at the technology element of it.
Yes. So on the technology side, as I said, it's you have to work as a cohesive unit along with the insurers, along with your partners. So unless everyone is on the same page, this marriage doesn't happen.
Yeah, right.
We are trying to bring in the insurers' tech capabilities. We are also trying to see what are the tech capabilities at the client's end. And of course, there are gaps, right?
Absolutely.
And that is where we come in. So wherever there is a gap, we come in with our solution. Let's say if something is missing at the end of the client, we give him that technology support. Even at the insurer level, they would have some robust system, but in terms of certain, let's say, claims API, not many insurance companies would
Absolutely.
have a claims API integration.
Loss ratio, history of those.
History, how do you record those data? For the client, it is very important for the client to have that kind of.
Or even the insurers, if
Yeah.
you want to take a client to them, they want to know, hey, what is the history of this guy,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
It's interesting you bring that up because, again, as I said, I've spent last 18 years, in US, and last 6 years has been in insurance in my startup. There are a couple of technologies that they are on the broker side, which is called agency management systems, which they are very heavy on because that's what they're using.
Yeah.
Do you see things like that coming in?
No, of course. I think so. I've been privy to some of these systems which are accessible, available globally. Indian market is moving there, I would say, but it's not matured. The agency management system, people are willing to pay a price in US. Whether that's the scenario in India, it's a question mark. But yes, people are opening up to that idea.
Absolutely. Well, last question before we wrap up. As you've been part of this event, so first of all, again, thank you for sponsoring the podcast and part of this conference. But beyond that, what's your thoughts, feedback?
No, I really want to thank the organizers because I think last I visited this global fintech which was in Mumbai. I think it was a Mahakumbh of sorts because everyone was under the roof.
Absolutely.
Here I think we have more of the Insurtech partners, and there's an insurance company, there's a distribution house like us, there is a tech partner, there are some claim consultancy companies. So everyone is under one roof, and I think as an industry we don't interact much amongst ourselves. So this I think is creating the right platform, and I hope this continues in other venues and it happens more frequently. That's my view on that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for your time once again, and I'm sure people will love listening to you on this
Thank you.
podcast.
Thanks.
And guys, stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.